Alright, so when we look at these examples, you can do them one of two ways. And I don't care which way you do it. Alright, it's completely and totally up to you which way you choose to work these. Some people like to look at them and immediately multiply. Okay? So they're going to look and they're going to go, okay, the square root of 7 times the square root of 3 is what? The square root of 21. Alright? Which is nice. Alright? And then they look at the square root of 21 and they go, okay, 21 is 1 and 21, 3 and 7. That's all prime. None of them are perfect squares. So I've not broken rule number 1. Thou shalt not keep a perfect square under the radical. There are no perfect squares. There's not a fraction or a decimal under the radical, and there's not a radical in the denominator. So I have cleared all 3 of my rules. So that's my answer. Now, what some other people like to do, and it won't work in this one per se, but it might work in a different one, is they'll go, okay, let me look at my square root of 7. Can I simplify it? No. But if I could, I would. And then if I look at my square root of 3, I would simplify it if I could. And then I would multiply the two simplifieds together. Does that make sense? So really you can either go, okay, I'm going to multiply first, then simplify. Or I'm going to simplify and then multiply. It's really up to you which way you do it. Okay? It really legit does not matter. So if I'm going to do the square root of 3 times the square root of 3, I'm really going to get what? The what? I'm going to get the square root of 9, which actually becomes what? Whole number 3. Okay? On C, you're going to look at it and you're going to go, okay, well, can I simplify 3? No. Can I simplify 15? Well, let's see. It's 1 and 15, 3 and 5, right? But neither of those simplify. So really it's going to become the square root of what? 45. But just because neither of those simplified doesn't mean that this won't. So I've got to check it. The square root of 45 is going to be what? 1 and 45. 3 and what?
15.
Who? 15. And then 5 and 9. Any of those a perfect square?
Yes.
Yep, which one?
5 and 9.
5 and 9. So it's really going to become the square root of 5 times the square root of 9, which is going to become what?
3 square root of 5.
3 square roots of 5. See how everything we've done so far plays into what we're doing here? Because we can't break any of these rules. And these rules we've kind of already talked about. We're just got to make sure we're applying them. Okay? All right, let's look at D. Well, how am I going to do D? Because D's got numbers and square roots. They've got coefficients and square roots and the whole shebang. So any good ideas on what we could do? Or any bad ideas? I'll take either. Yep.
Multiply the 2 on the outside, the 2 on the inside.
The 2 on the outside and the 2 on the inside?
No, like the 2 times 5 and the 3 times 2.
Okay, so the 2 times the 5 is going to get me what? 10. And then if I do the square root of 3 times the square root of 2, I'm going to get the square root of 6. Do I need to check the 6?
No. Yes.
Yes.
Check that.
So 6 is going to be 1 and 6, 2 and 3, but nothing comes from it, so I'm good. What's wrong, boys? All right, you ready for the next one? No coefficients, but I do have some variables now. So when I get ready to multiply this, I know I'm going to have the square root of, well, what's 2 times 6?
12.
12. And what's this x to the third times an x? X to the fourth. Because remember, when we multiply exponents, we're really adding them, right? Keep the base, add the exponent. So I got to check it. right? 12 is going to be 1 and 12,
And 3 and 4.
2 and 6, 3 and 4. Which one am I going to use?
3 and 4.
3 and 4. So the square root of 3 times the square root of 4 times the square root of x to the 4th. Don't forget that. Okay? What's going to happen to the square root of 3? Anything?
No.
It's going to stay the square root of 3. What about the square root of the 4th?
It's going to be 2.
It's going to be 2, so it's going to come to the outside. What about the square root of x to the 4th? It's going to be x squared, so it comes out. So it's going to be 2x squared, square root of 3. Can you live with that? Yes or maybe? Okay? You've got to make sure that you go back and check all 3 of your rules before you can be finished. And in this case, the only rule that applies is the first one. Okay? You've got to check and make sure those perfect squares are out of there. Okay? Do you remember how to do your variables? How do I do my variables? How do I know that that's x to the second?
You're going to go 2.
Okay, I'll see how many times 2 will go into it. So 2 will go into 4 2 full times, so it's x to the second. Let's do a quick one. What about x to the 11th?
X to the
X
5th.
to the 5th.
All right, 2 will go into 11 how many times?
5 times.
5 full times, so x to the 5th, square root of x. Everybody remember doing that now? Okay? We okay with that? Yes or maybe? Okay.